are in search of a new 10 scale two-wheel drive nitro truck. I think this is arguably the best entry-level nitro RC car you could ever buy. Another option I have is the Jado 3.3. Yeah, which one do you think I should get, guys? I got the Jado 3.3. All right, in regards to the accessories I got, this is the titanium anodized chassis for the Jado. I mean, it just looks cool. Also picked up the mid to high end pipe. And then we have the rear drive shafts. Then I picked up a crap ton of spares. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wheels and tires off and the engine out. It's going to make the car slash truck a lot easier to work on. So let's get started. Is it messed up that I'm completely tearing apart a brand new car? Not even running it. Just taking everything apart and converting it into a racer. All right, so to remove the engine, I typically just take these screws out, the screws that hold the engine into the motor mount. However, since we're going to replace the chassis anyways, we are going to unscrew it from the actual chassis. It will get us closer to switching those out. But so I got the engine out. Now, this is something I've never seen before. Look at this little black piece right there. That looks like the RPM sensor. I've never used that in the past. That's all the news. Look, it looks like it's reading off your flywheel there. But I hope I can remove that sensor. You can see that it kind of goes onto the motor mount there. It does elevate the engine a little bit. I wonder if I remove that sensor, if it drops down that whatever 2 or 3 millimeters, if it's going to be a problem. I gotta check on my old one, but you can see there's a little spacer on that side also. But look at all the extra wire. We're gonna remove all this, the easy start, everything. It's just gonna be an engine. It's gonna be so much better. All right, first things first, we gotta take this exhaust manifold off. And then we're gonna take this easy start off. This easy start's massive. All right, so when you take the easy start off, you're gonna pull this piece off here. Actually, let me go ahead and take the engine off the engine mount. 2.5 ball, extremely useful here. I mean, anyone that has a nitro car needs a 2.5 ball, because that's the only way you can get to these engine screws. See, look, right there. Only way you can get to those engine screws is at an angle. Unless you want to take the head of the engine off every time, which isn't great. We don't need any of this because we're not using any of the TQI stuff. There we go. All that is coming off. All this coming off. Now we are just left with the bare bones engine. Now, whenever you take the engine off or the starter off, you have this shaft here. This shaft is what you use for your pull start. It's what you can it's basically your crankshaft. So it's what your easy start uses and your pull start. However, if you're using a bump box, they actually have a 3.3 engine with a bump box plate where it's just blank there. There's nothing that comes out. I had one of my buddies at Lone Star, the old hobby shop I used to go to, Lone Star. He made these plates that go on the back. That way, you basically have a bump start engine. And you don't have that shaft sticking out. Boom, it's a little motor plate cover. Nice. Now this can go back on. There she is. So now the flywheel, see, you can move it either way. When you have the one-way bearing on there with the easy start, you can't move this freely. So this moves freely now. The engine's almost ready to be put back in. We obviously still have a lot of work to do. Ta-da! All right, let's set this aside. We're not gonna run that pipe, by the way. And let's pull the transmission out. There's two things we have to do. We have to take the diff apart, the rear diff apart, to put the out drives in for the new drive shafts. And we have to put the 1-speed in. So first things first, I just need to figure out how to get the transmission completely off. So I have the diff out, but this is interesting. Check this out. The sway bar is so tight on here, it doesn't even move. The sway bar should always move. So basically, you're gonna wanna back these sway bar screws out a little bit. That way it's not squeezing the sway bar. And the sway bar, you want it to move like that. Yeah, it was way too tight. I already put the rear bumper on there, by the way. What do you think? All right, so we have the transmission out. We're gonna put the 1-speed conversion in it now. Perfectly clean because it's brand spanking new. Don't lose any pieces, Mark. All right. Looks easy enough. All right, got the transmission apart. It looks like we remove all of this. I think there's a mosquito biting me in here, guys. Freaking sucks. This is the 2-speed, I believe. Actually, I take it back. This is a 2-speed. They're right there. That's your 2-speed clutch. So this is coming out. This is coming out. All right, and then this stuff is going in. All right, I think I know what I'm doing. Wait, what does this go on? The 1-speed transmission is installed. So basically, I removed all these pieces right here. And I think that's the most useful diagram on these instructions, is it tells you all the extra pieces that you'll be removing. And that's pretty much how I knew that's what I needed to get out. So onto the diff, we have to install the out drives for the axle shafts, drive shaft. So let me get to that. Oh, we got some gaskets in here. That's nice. Oh my goodness, guys. I was up way too late last night trying to fix this. Let me show you what I ran into. First off, look at how messy my workstation is. This is not good. Literally, I got this thing fixed and I went, this isn't leaking, by the way. I double checked, it is not leaking. I got this thing fixed and I went to bed because it was late. It was probably like almost 1 o'clock. But basically what happened is how the instructions tell you to put this diff together, which I read all through this stuff. It tells you to put that little O-ring, that PTFE O-ring right there. Not an O-ring, but like a, yeah, it's an O-ring. However, when I assembled it exactly how it was told, this diff, it would bind up really, really, really bad. So I was like, something isn't right. I literally took this thing apart maybe 2 or 3 times trying to figure out what the problem was. That little E-clip is a pain. Look, you can see how small it is right here. That E-clip right there. That E-clip was a pain in the butt to get on and off. But anyways, I did it a few times and I decided to not run that PTFE washer slash O-ring. I called it O-ring earlier. It's early, guys. But that PTFE washer. So I took that washer out because it gave a little bit more room inside the diff case. Because what was happening is whenever I'd screw it on, it was like, it would basically squish together and it would bind. So I took those washers out and now the diff works exactly how it's designed. It actually came with 30,000, not even 30,000. 30 weight oil in the diff. I put 3,000 in there. It feels great. So now my Jado diff will work the way it's designed. I don't know how it was right whenever I took it out of the box. I'm sure it wasn't like that, but in this case, if you're going to run these drive shafts, just take that washer out. Otherwise, your diff's not going to work the way it's supposed to. I'm pretty sure I messed this up in my other Jado that I built. Nonetheless, we got it fixed. Let's put the rear end back together and we can continue on to the car. Alright guys, I have the rear end put together. I pulled the front end off. Now we are on the chassis. We're almost going to get to put the beautiful titanium chassis on. However, I'm going to put new servos in this thing. The reason why I'm putting new servos in is because I'm going to run mine on LiPo. So these servos will probably survive. However, they're not rated for 7.4 volts. And I don't need this thing to pop in the middle of a main. Yeah, and it's going to be an hour-long main. So we're going to put some high-voltage servos in there. Fortunately, my friends from High Tech sent me a package a while back, and I haven't been able to use these servos, but we're going to use 2 really hardcore high-voltage servos. The new High Tech DB778WP. This is going to be for throttle. This one's a little bit quicker, and I want a quick servo for throttle. It's going to feel like I got better throttle response. And then the D954SW for steering. Now, this is a steering servo that we used to use back in the day. It basically has 333 ounces of torque. However, at 7.4 volts, which is what we're going to run it at, it has 400 ounces. I don't need this much. On a 2-wheel drive stadium truck, you probably need 200. It's high voltage. It's what I have. And they're 25-2 spline, so I don't have to replace the servo horns. We're using this stuff. Let's get these installed. Alright, I got the beautiful servos mounted. The fact that I'm running this low profile servo on the throttle is good. It gives me some room to run the wires. Everything is in there nice and clean. You can see on the bottom there. Looks really nice. But now, the part that I've been waiting for, we get to bust open this beautiful lightweight chassis. We're going to get started installing stuff on this chassis. We're at that point. But look at that beauty. Oh man, I am so excited about this build, guys. Oh, by the way, I bound it up to my DX6C because I have plenty of receivers for that. Holy smokes, guys. So this chassis turned out so amazing. I don't even think the video does it justice. It just looks so freaking good. But I overlooked something, and it kind of sucks. Let me show you. So whenever I removed that little sensor and that little shim that goes on the motor mount between the engine and the engine mount, I lowered the center of gravity. And if you can see it there, kind of, can you kind of see it right there? Basically, the flywheel is too big and it's going to stick out of the bottom of the chassis. That's not good because whenever I go down and I case my car, the ground, the track will actually stop my flywheel and kill my engine. They actually made a bump box flywheel for the 3.3 engine. However, they're discontinued. I went to the Traxxas store today looking for it. They don't have it. Traxxas does not have it. I ended up ordering one off of eBay. However, I don't have a new one with me. I do, though, have it on my other Jado. So we're going to rob the flywheel off the other Jado, put it on here, and then we'll be able to mount the engine. A little more work, but we're almost there. I have the old Huddy flywheel puller. Not the cheapest tool, but definitely a useful tool. And when you need it, there's no better thing. You can actually get something very, very similar. It's a little hack. You can get something very similar at O'Reilly's. Just get a battery terminal puller. Does the same thing, but I have the Huddy. So you basically put it on your crankshaft like that, and it actually pulls the flywheel off. There we go. The flywheel is removed. This is on my new engine. I gotta pull the engine out of my old Jado. Whew. This thing is dusty, musty. Engine out. Ooh, that engine's pretty much seized up. Here is the flywheel I need. This is the flywheel that comes on it. As you can see, there's a huge size difference. That's why I need this smaller flywheel. Alright guys, sorry it's so dark in here. So before I put the engine back in the car, I'm gonna see how it sits on the starter box. I removed that rear wheelie bar, and whenever you have the engine out of the starter box, it's way easier to see how everything lines up. Glad I decided to check the starter box one last time. Man guys, we're so close. The last and final piece I have to put on this beast is the beautiful chrome pipe. I have the engine mounted in. It's actually better because it's lower. It actually lowered the center of gravity. Everything just looks absolutely amazing. Oh my goodness, guys. Put this in there and we are done. It's done. Look at that beautiful, beautiful pipe. The beautiful chassis. How clean everything is. New servos. So satisfying. There's only a few more things to do. I wish I could say there's one last thing to do. We have to break it in, and then we got to take it to the track and tune it. So it's super late, but tomorrow we break it in. Alright guys, we're about to fire this thing up, but before I do, I have to set the endpoints. I want to just make sure all the endpoints are set. I could blow a servo or strip one of these servo horns out if I have the endpoint set too far, because these are still the stock plastic servo horns. So I'm going to set the endpoints, then we're going to heat up the engine, and we're going to hope that she starts up just fine. I'm so excited. Oh, look at how good she looks in the sun. That pipe just shimmering. Oh, I'm so excited. I have the box over here. This is to trap all the excess fuel. It's going to be spitting a lot of oil since it's going to be really, really fat during break-in. And this will just keep all the oil kind of in one spot. Alright guys, so what you're going to see me do is I'm going to heat the engine up. And then I'm going to prime fuel into the carb. That way whenever I try to start it, there's actually fuel in the carb lubricating the engine. And then hopefully everything idles just fine. I might have to trim up the throttle a little bit to keep it idle. We're going to idle 2 tanks, and then we're going to do 3 heat cycles. This is the scariest part of breaking a nitro engine, the initial startup. We should be good though. Alright, so we have the idle stable. The biggest thing when you're idling these tanks is you want to see that oil right there. That means that it's getting plenty of lubrication. It's definitely spitting oil, which is good. So we're good to go, guys. We're gonna do a few heat cycles, and then on the next video you guys are actually gonna get to see this thing actually run. Braking process is probably gonna take a few tanks, so let me get this done. Oh my god, guys, I'm so excited. We'll see you next time.